Kyle, my dude.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, dude. I really appreciate you carving out some time on your busy day and making an appearance in the compound on the show. So appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, I'm stoked, man. I mean, like, especially considering the mix of guests you got that you've picked up over the last 6 months.
Crazy. It's crazy. I don't understand. Yeah. It's weird, man. It's weird, to be honest. You just get into it and then you start to ask people, and then I was like, you go through, you're like, these people are very different from each other.
Yeah.
It's tough. But with that being said, we'll kind of get into all that stuff as we go. But take me through, just so people get to know kind of who you are. Take me through as your kind of journey or your story from, we can go from your like life kind of leaving high school, your transition there, to kind of where we are now.
Yeah, it's been a weird journey. Because, like, I know, like, I grew up in, like, Muskoka. Everyone usually does, like, the straight line. Mm-hmm. Where it's, like, high school, university, and then job, family. And I just did the opposite. Yeah. Like, I made the most confusing, ridiculous type of, like, twisting turns.
Nice.
Because I know, I graduated, after I finished high school, I wanted to teach.
Right.
And, like, my mom was a teacher, so I was like, yeah, that's fair. Why not?
Yeah, it's cool. Try it out.
Yeah. And, like, I know what the job is like, so I went to school for 2.5 years. Yeah. And then halfway through second year, started a marketing company and, like, started doing freelance stuff.
Yeah.
And just kind of realized that that's just kind of my calling.
Nice.
Is, like, is talking to people and media and marketing.
What kind of made that transpire? Like, did you just all of a sudden one day wake up and you go, nope, this is what I'm doing from now on? Or was it like a series of events? Like, take me through that.
It was a lot of just kind of like fate and coincidence, honestly.
Yeah, how so?
So there was I guess it would be 2017. There used to be like a business competition called like Be Your Own Boss.
Okay.
And like ton of universities have them.
Yeah.
Where you just pitch a business idea and just try it out. Like, it's just like a PowerPoint pitch.
Yeah.
And it's built for students that just want to start something from scratch.
Oh, nice.
And I just had this, like, I'd started writing poetry at that point.
Yeah.
And didn't have time for work because the first 2 years of university I was doing, like, varsity sport. Like, I was on 2 different varsity sports teams.
Nice.
So that between that and school.
No time.
No.
No.
And so at that point, I was like, I need something to get paid. And so, looking back, it was really not a good idea, honestly. But I called it poetry-inspired marketing.
Nice. Okay.
And I tried to make this pitch for a solid, like, year straight.
Yeah.
To anyone who listened about you should pay me for content creation and, like, birthday and Christmas cards that are poetry.
Interesting.
Yeah. Like, I started with just making custom poems, and yeah.
Interesting. Now, would you have like themes for everything? Obviously, like depending on the holidays and stuff, like probably have more Christmas versus birthdays. But do you have like a standard of how you would do that, or did you like just have templates and stuff?
I made templates.
Yeah.
So I sat down and made themes around them all, and just gathered a bunch of stock images, and I mean, it's pretty rough. Mm-hmm. Because I barely know how to use Photoshop, obviously.
Right.
And I was only I was 19. Mm-hmm. And just thought, like, hey, I can run a business. Why not? Why not just make, like, custom cards?
At 19, eh?
Yeah.
Nice.
With zero experience.
Zero. It's the best way to do it, man. Like, you just gotta try it. We start off everything with no experience, though, right? So, in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. And that was the best part of it, I think. Yeah. Because, I mean, looking back, I'm really glad I did. Nice. Because I called the company Poetry Ghost, mm-hmm. and that's still what it's called now, except it's, more involved and actually a legit company with...
Yeah, you're able to make money off it.
Yeah, and it has real products, not just... Nice. Because especially making, like, those poetry cards for people and mm-hmm. trying to sell this idea that you should pay me to do your writing for marketing. Right. Because of poetry. It's ridiculous.
I was going to say, it's kind of, the concept it's unique. It's very unique. Yeah. I wouldn't go as far to say it's absurd or ridiculous at all. Like, I think it depends on, I'm sure there's a market for it, right? Like, there's a market for everything if you could find it. So I think that's really cool. You're able to kind of turn that something that you were doing and then make a profiting business from it, right? Like, isn't that kind of the whole point or the goal of these things? Like, hey, whatever I like to do, let's just make some money doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a fun journey too, because, you know, like I'm kind of blessed in a way that I made such a unique sort of like proposition.
Yeah.
Because it was so hard to position and pitch to people. But also, so like there's that, but then also I didn't have any experience whatsoever in marketing.
Right.
And so it just took a ton of psychology and just specific words, and like even like it just became I had it down to a science that I would walk in a room and meet someone and shake their hand and then be able to read them and figure out like which one of three phrases I should say first to describe my business that would appeal to them.
Now then, with that being said, what was your philosophical approach to that? Like, how did you, your psychological approach to the beginning of that? Like, where did you, like, dive into that thought process of figuring out, this is kind of brand new? How'd you start? Like, what was step one?
I think, honestly, step one was just trying to find ways to appeal to the emotion.
Yeah.
Because I realized over the years, and I mean, I'll tell clients this too, and people, and like just anyone trying to start a company that's sort of like younger, like early 20s even now. Like, well, at this point, early 20s.
Early 20s, yeah.
That it's all about appealing to them and knowing whether you have to sell the idea of something or a product.
Right.
Because I was selling the idea of poetry-inspired marketing content.
Right. Which is very different than the physical product, what they'd be buying through that process. Right.
Because, I mean, I could have done anything with it.
Facts,
like, the writing the cards, I guess, stopped after a while, because I realized, like, this is not working really well, and I don't want to work for Hallmark, so...
Yeah, fair. They have a nice store, though. Like, they have nice stores.
They really do, you know?
Yeah.
Like just, like, if you think about it, you know, like, it was... At one point, I did have this, like... I envisioned a bunch of cards that I wrote and like a Bath and Body Works type of shelf where it just like it stands out and it blends.
Ooh, that'd be awesome. That'd be cool though. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Do you have like a thinking back on it? Do you have like a card that you sold that you were convinced wouldn't sell, or like one that was like, I'll just see how this goes, or like a memorable number one favorite, or
honestly, I think it was the one where I wrote once a card for someone whose grandmother had passed, or she was passing, which, I feel like this is like a really good example of how how the roads have been just all over the place.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was great, and so I actually made that into a template, and tried to pursue the idea of making a sympathy card based on. What I made for a client.
Come on.
And because it was pretty beautiful, like the writing was great.
Yeah.
But as soon as I like put it online, I think I only saw like what a person messaged me and wanted to customize it. And I was like, all right, this is I got to move on from this.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, we want to take your very moderately simple idea, but like change the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well.
Which is, it's fair.
Right, yeah.
You know, I get, it is kind of like, it's a good idea, right? But, I don't know. But because it's, like, that's something that, over the years, like, I've changed up what I've done a lot.
Right.
And so I went from being an outsourced partner for agencies to writing web copy, to doing podcast marketing, to hosting 2 podcasts at once.
Yeah.
And then all at the same time, like, helping charities with fundraising.
Nice.
And like content, like campaigns for like their Giving Tuesdays, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's been a little like, it's kind of great.
That's pretty cool. There's a lot of community involvement there for sure.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. It's kind of crucial. Like looking back.
Like kind of crucial to where you are now, or just crucial in general.
In general.
Yeah.
Like it's like being part of the community is like it's always been something that I find is like it's a crucial part of like your development of yourself almost in a way. Because, which is cliche to say, but I feel there's like it's not just like the surface level of like it teaches you how to be a good person.
Yeah.
I feel like it goes deeper into the whole idea of like it shows you all the different types of people in the world.
Right.
Because then you're able to see the different personalities and their motivations and like how to work with them, I guess.
Right. That's fascinating. I think that's a lot of... I like the reason of that being a good way to kind of develop personally and improve on like yourself. Just simply see... It's a perspective thing, right?
It is.
I think at the end of the day, and I think that's why people gravitate towards it or they want to get involved. It could be the sense of like helping out community or that sense of like you're feeling good and you're fulfilled and you're doing it for a good cause. And then that's the reason people do a lot of different stuff, right?
Well, yeah, and especially when it comes to charity work, you know, like there's I can't remember who told me this. It was years ago at this point, but they told me that because I asked them about getting involved, and you know, like I want to get some like marketing, business, fundraising experience with charities, and they kind of put it like this, where there's the type of volunteering where you just put in time and like you work like with soup kitchens and you offer time. And then there's the other type of volunteering where you offer experience and you sort of challenge yourself to fit into like the mold of the charity.
Oh, okay.
But still kind of be yourself in a way.
Right.
Like there's two sort of spectrums where it's... And I mean, over the years I've done like a mixture of both, but like that was a really good piece of advice that I got because I was able to like hand pick different people to work with, and like over the years there's been some really just out of the box charities that I've like helped create marketing plans for. Like there's in Boston there's a charity where they help adults with autism find jobs.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's really cool. What was that like?
It was actually kind of cathartic because my younger brother, so my brother's 2 years younger and he's autistic, and as soon as I saw the charity, it just kind of clicked because I didn't really like. I remember that my parents would talk about how like hopefully when my brother graduates high school, he can find a job, but no one really gives him a chance.
No way.
Like because it's a dependency, and you know. Yeah,
man, for sure.
And well, it's also like, I mean, like they're not sure if they can pull off the job,
right? And
so like that charity in Boston, it was interesting because I was able to kind of like it really clicked, just at like how tough it actually is, and the hiring protocols and like other health charities, and like was it 2018 I think it was that I did a bunch of just like sort of not quite like outreach type stuff for a charity that sends medical supplies to like Africa and different third world, like not Uganda, but like very specific just unrecognized countries in Africa through suitcases.
That's pretty cool. That's good stuff. Wow.
So it's kind of great because it's not paid,
right?
But looking back, I would still do the same thing all over again, just because it's like, and you probably found this too with this like random projects you've worked on over the years, that like it's kind of that experimentation and seeing all the different goals and like the ways that even if someone's like, I just want to get more donations, or we just need more volunteers, it's different for every single charity.
Right. Interesting. I had a, it's funny you mentioned that, because I've had the main one I could think of, like the biggest bulk experience I had with that, obviously like the weekend event stuff here and there, not so much as I've gotten older, which is probably not ideal, you know? But it's not like the older I get, the less I help the community. It's more just, it's geared differently, but...
Yeah, no, it's honestly right. Like, you're more focused, because you know how you can actually help, I feel like.
Right, and it's more like a help in the grand scheme of things, and then help, like, just not be a shitty human.
Yeah.
Which is very... It's tough, we'll get into that every time. But anyways, so I did a 2-week service trip to Ecuador in like I think 2018.
No way.
Yeah, so that was a blast. And to kind of your point, when it comes to that type of stuff, it was through Me to We, but seeing each different like facilitator a part of that community in the villages there, and how that, like, one person's sole life focus was bringing water to that specific village.
Oh man.
Which, like, couldn't find them on a map. Be like, but you can look and be like, this chunk of shrubbery and bush is where X amount of 140, 150 people live, and it's just one guy's sole focus is bringing water as a resource to this community. And that's his life focus.
That's wild.
It's kind of crazy, right? And it's like the passion they have for things like, that's what it is, right? It's the passion you see on these people's faces when this guy's showing me a filtration system for the water, and he's like in tears telling me how they got it. And he's like, and we were boating it 8 hours down the river in the pouring rain. And I mean like Amazon pouring rain.
Which is committed too, because
ridiculous.
Amazonian rain is... It's not even.
else.
It's not rain. It's like downpour.
Right, and I can't explain that. I can't explain that enough. Like, if you haven't experienced it, you can't really grasp and understand from. I'm like, the hardest rain we have here is just is like double that, and that's kind of normal.
Yeah.
And the majority of the time, it's more than that. So it's kind of it's kind of off and on like that rain wise, but seeing kind of the passion people have for doing things like that in those countries specifically, when there's that much more work and effort that goes into it. This guy's telling me like how they're trying to bring clean food, and like they're trucking buckets of water, like dirty water from the river over, like they're walking 10 kilometers to where he's got this net, which is basically like, I would think of it as a screen we have on our windows, pouring this dirty water in it, and that's step one. And you're like, so we just got to get it here, and then that's step one, right? And that like, goes into
honestly,
it.
That reminds me of that age-old phrase when when kids complain about how they have to take a bus to school. Their parents like, well, in my day we walked uphill both ways and through the snow, and we had to climb trees
on our hands. It always gets more exaggerated the more they tell you, right?
Oh, absolutely. Like every time that. Like, I mean, I was lucky, and my grandparents never really did, but we grew up in the middle of, like, I was in the area of Muskoka where I was in the middle of nowhere.
Right. What area of Muskoka?
Milford Bay, actually.
Yeah? Because I know... You've been to Halliburton?
Yeah.
That's as close as I've probably been. Like, I've been there a bunch of times.
I
worked at an outdoor center there, so...
Yeah, so Milford Bay is kind of, like, equal to like some of this really tiny like hamlets on the edge of Halliburton.
Oh, no kidding.
So there's the sort of like the area I grew up, and then to go to school you go into town, and then if you turned right on the highway instead, then you hit like the tourist area of Port Carling and Muskoka.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's like right between.
Like if you blink, you're gone through it, kind of thing.
Honestly,
you're like, no facts.
Yeah, like it's wild because I mean, like it was great for exercise and like especially when I was doing varsity sports and I went home for the summer. Then I just had endless amount of roads to do biking and shit like that.
Yeah,
but
that's pretty cool. So, where'd you? You said you went to Laurentian?
Yeah.
School? Yeah. What was that like? What was that like? Education like?
I don't really remember, to be honest.
Fair. Just probably a good thing. First year's a write-off anyway. Right?
Well, it's funny because I guess it's not that I don't remember because I was drinking too much. It's because I was so busy. Like I drank too, you know. Like there was a time when
I like that I didn't imply that, and you're just like, no, I just wasn't drinking. I'm like, I don't know if I believe you now. But
well, I mean, there was that, you know, like there was one night in first year when I had like. I think I had to go home for reading week. My goal was to finish. I had 19 cans of beer left in the fridge, and my goal was to finish all of them because I was an idiot, and I didn't want to have them left in the fridge when I left.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. And so I got to 16 out of 19 in one night, which was insane.
That's a lot. Especially like you're not a big guy, so no. I'm like, oh no.
Well, it's kind of like looking back, I don't understand at all. Like I cannot fathom how I did it because I was only 160 pounds and was training 4 to 6 hours a day.
Right.
And sleeping 4 hours a day.
What were you training for? Like, what were the sports? I know you mentioned it, but you never mentioned it.
So varsity rowing and curling.
Interesting. That's an interesting mix. Now, why those two? Like, what was do you have past experience?
With curling, I did, yeah. Like, I played curling for 10 years.
Oh, nice.
So I played, like, competitively in high school.
Jeez.
And then looking back, and if, like, just a pro tip for anyone out there that is in university and sees a few sports and they're good at multiple sports and you think it's a great idea to do both. It's not.
Pick one.
Honestly, because with the curling it was great because there's only a few practices, but then I saw varsity rowing and just sort of like it's on the water and the training and the work ethic and I don't know what called me to do it, but I committed 110%. It was nuts.
Right on.
For 2 years straight, and
man, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, like and looking back, it was a really big part of my growth because I was like I learned a work ethic and also just like how to get past pain, which is a big part of it.
Dude, it's huge, man. It's huge for sure. Wow. Now, switching gears a bit, I want to know. So you kind of do a bit of comedy, you do a bit of like poetry when it comes to those kind of things, right? More as passion projects, right? So what's kind of the difference in your mind? Like, how does writing comedy stories, like the storytelling process, change when writing for comedy versus when writing in poetry? Like, how does that story change? How do you approach that?
I think the perspective changes, or rather the information that you take in and use changes.
Right.
And so with poetry, you're really going for the emotion and the image and the story, and you want to really like grasp the reader's attention and just keep it there.
Right.
And so from like the first line of poetry, like if you say like trees were blue until one branch died. That doesn't really make sense as a line, but like you could see in your eyes that you're like, what? Okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay.
Whereas like with comedy, it's like you make it more clear. Like you kind of just hand, at least with my approach to comedy, I find, which is very much like a lot of like wordplay and like very subtle jokes and a lot of layers of sarcasm almost.
Right.
Where if I was going to do the same thing with comedy, it'd be like, have you ever noticed that, or rather, when I woke up one day and I saw a bunch of trees were blue, but then I realized I just had my UV glasses on. Where it's ridiculous, but it's that more clear, direct approach.
Right.
Of like, here's the joke, here's the topic, and then here's the punchline. And it's up to you on which you want to grab onto.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But with poetry, you kind of give them the punchline right away, so to speak, and like you kind of hand them the whole package.
Oh, that's a really good way of putting it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Wow, because I know it's both like a similar form of storytelling, but it's like a piece of what the story is you're giving them. It could be the setup, the metaphor, the punchline, everything. And
it all depends too on what you're going for.
Yeah.
Because there's so many different types of comedy.
Right.
Like there's the one-liners, and then there's the guys who spend 5 minutes talking about like just a really awkward sexual experience.
Yeah.
And then there's
it's just outrageous.
Yeah.
So outrageous that it's funny.
Honestly, right? Like it's not really even that funny if they weren't ridiculous. Like Theo Von is a good example.
Yeah, great example, dude.
Yeah. That like just his stories of where he came from.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah. It's not really even that humorous. No. It's just the absurdity of it.
Yeah, and I think you pair that with his ability to deliver it candidly, like it's no big deal, because to him it is no big deal.
Yeah.
So I think that, and then people's reactions, he still stays neutral, and I think his ability to do that is what kind of made him jump to mainstream.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I find really interesting about comedy at this point. Because I've been going to comedy shows and like poetry and art and
Yeah.
like avant-garde music and just everything in between.
Right.
For 6-7 years.
Mm.
And like that's kind of, and I think that like what I love about comedy the most is that there's more room for creativity
Then poetry?
Yeah, honestly.
Interesting. What way?
You can play around with it more, and you can change your angle, but still say the same thing so many different, so many ways. Honestly.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Because like you can write poetry, and like there's like a dozen or so types of poetry. Like there's limericks and sonnets and all this other shit, right? But
sure, dude, you're the expert, not me.
Well, there's like the Irish like play on words where it's kind of like goofy, like a drinking song.
I could probably tell you the difference between the genres if you were to go give me an example and give me an example.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, this is different than that.
Yeah.
But I could disassociate the two, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what kind.
Well, and that's what I mean. That comedy, it's more of a gray line.
Right.
Like in poetry and in music, there's kind of like a definitive line between sounds and style. But in comedy, I don't know. There's something that I really fucking love about how it's kind of gray. Mm-hmm. Like you can say the same joke in 3 different ways, and the punchline is in a different place, and the callback, so to speak, where like you make the punchline, you say something that's sort of like a misnomer,
right,
and then you say something that refers to your punchline again.
Huh.
And so like the ways you can play with that, and there's some brilliant someone like Cole Leonard.
Yeah.
The comedian comes to mind in Suburb for that, because he'll make some of his jokes, he'll change up how he does them, and he'll just name drop like the Holocaust, for example, and then he'll be like, then he'll make like a joke about anti-Semitism in the same sentence as the Holocaust.
Right. It's how he strings it together and delivers it.
Yeah, because in the crowd, I mean, he's one of those interesting guys where you don't even you don't know what to expect.
Right.
But there's something magical about the amount of space that you have to work with the comedy.
That's awesome. Switching gears now, as we were just kind of talking, with the storytelling and stuff, how did you, because here's the thing, I'll tell you something pretty cool. For the longest time, I was like, I'm the only show in Sudbury that I knew of.
Yep.
And then David Kurt with Late City Realty and you were the only 2 other people who I knew were doing something. And then I came to notice, and then I was like, oh, other people have had shows longer. Cool. Yeah. So kind of understanding all that, how'd you get into podcasting?
It was actually kind of by just random fluke. Like I had a friend that I met John Borowski, who was a School of Architecture grad, and I met him at a business event, and it turns out he had a show in CKLU, and he was like, yo man, come on the show.
Nice.
Like we'll just talk about random shit.
Like whatever, yeah.
Yeah. And then I went on the radio, and immediately he was like, that was great, dude. Like, do you want to come on again? So the week after,
I'd love to.
Honestly, because there was a chemistry there, and there's something about, I don't know, it's just there's something about the way that I was able to share information, but also just have fun with it. Right. And all it took was 2 interviews, and me and him became co-hosts.
That's cool, man.
And just started really interviewing business owners, and it was fucking wild. Yeah. And then in a way that, by the time that the show, by the second year of the show, we had an episode every week, but I started putting together panels. So I would find 2 entrepreneurs that are slightly different, but in the same industry or similar personalities. Yeah. And so I'd pair together 2 business owners every single week for a whole year and a half. Wow. And at one point brought 3 people on the show. Yeah. Like a painter, a DJ, and a blind hip hop producer, all on the same show.
A what? A blonde?
Blind.
Oh, blind. Can't.
I mean, that would be great.
I was like, interesting distinction to mention. What does that characteristic have to do with anything? You didn't mention anything. Yeah. Yeah, so you got this DJ, this businesswoman, and this blonde dude. Like,
yeah.
Like that's
like, you know, the guy, like that blonde dude? Yeah.
That one. So...
No, that's a show. Like, actually, I mean, there's a ton of great comedy podcasts that run with that. Like, I mean, especially because that's kind of not where the inspiration came from.
Right.
But seeing the mixes like that and a lot of cool comedy podcasts, like, they will, not to beat a dead horse, but they'll take that concept so that, like, their show will be like, the Glenn podcast with a blonde, a brunette, and a gray hair, and it'll just be three random strangers that each have the color
just
hair.
Fit the description, eh?
Yeah.
Jeez.
And I mean,
yeah, that's hilarious.
And it's kind of funny because it's kind of like that though. Like when it came to making pairings, because you kind of want them to come together, but also kind of show how they're different. So like when one person spoke, then it triggered an idea or thought or experience from the other person. But then at the same time, it also highlighted the subtle differences between like a death doula and someone who does like long-term death care.
Right.
Or like someone who does yoga and someone who works for CMHA on the same show.
Mm-hmm.
Like the very subtle differences.
Yeah. What was kind of, if you want to share it, your like reach out strategy? Like how do you contact all these people? Just fire them a DM, email them mostly?
Yeah.
Just literally those two kind of thing?
And I mean,
I also got people want to do it, right?
Yeah, I mean, a ton of people do, and I also got really lucky that I went, like, I was always in the community, going to events, seeing things, going to art shows, and, like, YPA events, and just really anything. Mm-hmm. Like, it was, looking back, I overdid it. Like, it was overkill. But when I was 22, 23, I was going to 3 or 4 events a day.
Jeez.
Of, like,
Jesus.
Like from like an art opening to like a music concert to some sort of like business thing.
Yeah.
And even I was committed because like
that's what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Like that's as what you're doing, and as the business grows, you need to be in the community doing that.
Honestly,
right?
Like I grew up hearing, like you just got to put your feet in the ground, and I just took it.
Weird, eh? But it's facts.
Yeah, and when you take it that literal, it works. Like then, so that's how I met all the people for the show, just over the years, or just by honestly just like randomly looking on Facebook, and just coming across people that like seem interesting,
right?
And I would kind of pay attention to like, oh, what are they attending, or like if I want to start doing shows that are more socially conscious, then like I found out about they had like death cafes, and so you went and you just talked about death.
What?
And yeah, it's a big thing in England and Britain.
Have you been to any?
Yeah,
I'm sure
3 of them.
Where? Like in Sudbury? Or?
Yeah. It was Joy Weirta actually. Shout out to Joy for that because they were amazing. Like the experience was wild.
Tell me what that was like, dude. Jesus.
It is strange.
I'll be honest, I would go just to understand, like just to wrap it, but if you give me a good enough of a description, I'm good.
Yeah.
That's just not my...
It's,
be intrigued, but... I'm sure I just can't remember
it's one of those things that you have to go into it emotionally and mentally prepared.
I wouldn't know how to approach preparing for it mentally and emotionally. That'd be my thing. I would have to I would have to dive into it, so...
I don't know. I mean, I went into it unprepared, but... The brilliant thing about it was that there was table prompts.
Right.
So you walked in, and everyone is a stranger, and you sit down at a random table.
Right.
And there's just like a bunch of like where the business cards are, those would be prompts of like, how would you want to die, or like what would you want your family to know before you die? And it was incredible because it created conversation around it, so it's not as terrifying.
I love that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of terrifying, but I'm glad there was a I'm glad there seems to be, from what you're saying, a structure to them.
Yeah.
Which kind of made it. It's an open-ended structure, right? But it's like, hey, we're gonna give you the tools to kind of.
Well, it's community driven as well. Where like, so they're given the tools, and the prompts, and because, like especially at it was mostly women that went, and mostly women over 50,
Whoa.
and so it was
I wouldn't have
amazing watching
that.
it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Dude.
Seeing them talk about it, I mean, there were moments that someone would cry, but it's good. Like, in the whole, like, mindfulness and dealing with emotions kind of thing, it's better to cry about it way before it happens, because then you can actually, like, prepare yourself and understand the emotion that you feel.
It's kind of like a gateway you have to go through.
Honestly.
Or rite of passage, you have to go, what?
Yeah.
You kind of you become, like, at peace with the inevitable.
Pretty much.
What?
Well, I mean, it reminds me of, like, I don't know if you've if you watched Yes Theory, like,
yeah,
over
man,
the
I was
years,
actually just like checking a video earlier.
So it's like the seek discomfort
right
quote, and then there's
it's that whole ideology, eh?
Yeah.
Jeez, now I want to know how'd you find out about that? Like, what do you? Because I was like, oh, I heard that. Honestly, dude, at first I heard deaf cafe. I'm like, oh, everyone's deaf in there.
Actually, I think
I'm sure there's something like that too. That's got to be. That doesn't sound too off.
Like,
off
instead of like they just all meet up and they all
just sign.
They just use sign language, and like
everybody's yelling, you can't hear a thing.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And like, I mean, and that would actually be kind of cool though.
That would be very interesting, eh?
Because it'd be like a therapy group.
If you do make money off this, let me know. And this way, if you say it's a solo thing, I'll be like, remember this video, Kyle?
Right?
Yeah, I'll throw it back, but no, it's all good. Take it.
But it's like, it's funny because I haven't thought about Yes Theory in a long time. Because I mean, partially because I watched a ton of random content.
Fair.
But I don't know. It's been since I was like 22, 23 that I've watched their stuff. But it's that like the motto of like seek discomfort.
Right.
That like it's like with the death cafe, like going to the death cafes when you're only 22, and then like from that all the way to like going to conferences where I was clearly not like where I didn't fit in, or like I was in Toronto in 2019, so before COVID, and by fluke there was a Latin American startup conference. So it was a conference full of Latin American startups that all came from like different areas. Yeah. And they all pitched. And so it was amazing.
That's crazy. How'd you hear about this? Like, Google. How do you just Google?
Yeah.
It's like shit to do on this day?
Honestly.
Like, as simple as that sounds?
Google has been my best friend for years.
Jeez, so that's how you found out about the Death Cafe?
Yeah. And events all the time.
You just go events in Sudbury today or whatever, and that just came up, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, man. It's really like, it's funny because over the years, people ask, like.
It's too simple. Like, it
does?
Like, it's an easy thing right there.
Like, and I think that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, just the simplicity in it.
Yeah. Because then, like, it's so, like, it really is, it's funny. Whoa. Over the years, how many times I've been asked, like, yo, dude, like, you're everywhere. Like, how do you do that? And I'm like, I just use Google. Yeah. And I like a lot of things, and I just put in the time to sit down and just search for events and like find things that I could be like that I might like or like might get value out of.
Yeah, interesting, dude. I like that. I love that approach. I think that's a very, very open-minded approach to doing things. And you're like, hey, man, I like a lot of shit, and I think you're a great example of, and I'm sure you've heard this solution, but when people are like, I don't know what to do, or with my life, I don't know what I do. I'm like, fucking try some shit.
Yeah, honestly.
You'll figure it out. Try it. People are like, oh, what have you done? Well, I worked at one job in retail. I'm like, well, you have no idea what you want to do then, right?
Yeah.
But I think you're the epitome of the solution to the problem of I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I think you epitomize that very well, just with how open-minded you are towards things.
Yeah.
And there's some like with I hear the Death Cafe, I've seen other stuff you've done, I've been around, heard people share things where you've come up in conversation, I'm like, It's very, very. You're not. I wouldn't say all over the place because it takes away.
Yeah.
But like quite literally all over the place.
It's diverse in a way.
Thank you. That was a better word.
And I appreciate that, man. Like, because that's something that I worked really hard to build up. So like, I'm really glad that you said that because it's
for sure, man.
It kind of.
I mean it.
Thanks. Like, and it's one of those. It never was really on purpose.
Right.
I'm just a strange kind of dude.
Yeah.
And I just like a lot of shit.
Right.
And I don't like to sit still or like be in one track.
Right.
Like even like when I make goals, so like every year I'll make goals. I have 8 categories.
Jesus.
So I'll have like spiritual. There's one for like spirituality, one for like marketing, one for like poetry, one for podcasting.
Whoa.
And so I'll break it down.
Dude, I love that.
It's so much easier, man.
Yeah? Does it make it easier to accomplish them or just eh?
Yeah, and then you can also categorize. Like maybe it's because the way my brain works.
Yeah.
Like it works in a really fucking weird way where it can like it's all boxes in my head.
Right.
And so if I like we're gonna do this interview and then like in 5 years, someone will mention your name and I can immediately I can visualize like just finding that box on the shelf and open it. And I'll somehow remember, like, all the shit that we just said.
Yeah.
And so, it's the same thing with, like, the goals where, like, poetry will be so specific that I want to finish a poetry collection this year.
Right.
And for podcasting, that I want to get onto CBC.
Nice.
And so, I mean, it does work and it doesn't, like, there's flaws to it as well. Because you can't have too many goals.
No, because then it's that whole thing of like you can't half-ass 2 things, you whole-ass 1 thing, right?
Yeah.
You spread yourself too thin, right?
And originally, I mean, that's what I did. Like,
I
think in 2019, that's when I started doing this type of like goal setting. Mm-hmm. And I would make like 4 or 5 categories, and there's 3 bullet points for each one.
Now, do you approach that like those goals by like how do you break those down? Like once you have the goals, like how do you go about attacking them, like implementing the steps? Because I think goals are great, but if you don't have systems in place or habits you're trying to build, like how do you go about starting to build the habits to achieve those goals?
I'd say it's a lot of it is just I approach it like how you would approach like manifesting something.
Right.
Like if a friend of mine, she's just talking about yesterday actually, that she has like a wish jar where every 3 months she'll just have a jar just like this, and then she'll write like a wish on the card that she wants to visit a new waterfall, and just toss it in the jar, and then you put it in the shelf. And so like, man, that was cinematic. That was great.
That was really cool. I almost think you're taking away doing what you just did by talking about it, but that's okay.
I know, yeah, but it's
my fourth wall,
yeah, like my ADHD completely kicked in there for a second.
No,
I was
it's
like,
perfect.
whoa, that flowed.
Yeah.
But it's like a wish jar or like just tiny things, like all that. Because in the end, like I don't know. I mean, a goal, like there's goals, but then there's landmarks or like things you want to do.
Right.
Like I've never been a big believer, and I could like for some reason I could never really get behind like number-based goals.
Okay.
Like where if someone wants like 10,000 followers.
I don't like those either. Yeah. It's not realistic because you start to because your happiness now is depicted by a number or analytic that's somebody else. Because here's the thing. Check this out. My most viewed podcast is actually a Facebook video podcast done that was over 10,000 views.
Yeah.
It's a 2.5 hour episode. The average view duration of that episode is 43 seconds.
Of course.
That's atrocious.
That's always how it is. Like,
that's not good. That's not what I want. I'll take 8 people watching it, the whole fucking thing.
Right? And that's the worst part about stats.
So I hate them. I avoid them. I don't care. It's great. Stats, for YouTube it's a money thing, but it isn't. Really
with podcasting, it's stats as well. Like with the music podcast, like I remember looking at the numbers, and like some episodes would only get 30 downloads, but then when you look on Facebook, the impressions are like 800, and you're like, what?
How does this? It's tough, yeah.
Like it's the contrast, and like you're right, man. Like it really is. Like I bet like when you saw that number that people dropped out after a minute.
Not even. I was like, fuck.
Like, it's so deflating.
It's bad. I kind of expected it though. Just but that kind of coincides with with kind of what I want to ask you next. Have you ever had, and don't take this as me asking because I feel this way, but have you ever had a conversation that like halfway through it, like a podcast episode specifically, that halfway through it, or as you kind of get into it, you're like, fuck, I shouldn't have asked this person to be on the show.
So many times.
Yeah?
So many times.
Dude, amazing.
Because, like, there's, you know, like, you can't be... The thing with podcasting that, like, you've probably discovered it now, too, especially that you've done so many interviews.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't hit the mark. Mm-hmm. You know, like, there's someone that looks really good online or, like, has an interesting thing that they do.
Yeah.
But then they come onto a podcast and start talking.
And they don't meet expectations.
No, it's just so dull.
Yeah.
Or you ask them, you know, like, this is a great event, like, you know, who's working on it with you? And they're like, oh, it's just me. But then when you look at the details of the event, there's catering.
Yeah.
And their family's helping, and they have someone hired.
Yeah. It's like, give me the longest possible, and this is a healthy piece of advice for anyone coming on a podcast. I'm going to word it this way. Find the longest possible way to answer a question.
Yes, honestly.
Like, take 8 minutes. I'll gladly sit there and attentively listen as well as I will, and as well as you're ever going to see, and as well as I can. If you spend there 8 minutes telling me about why the dog you have at home is your favorite dog, I'll attentively listen as best as I can and be engaged the whole time. But if you say, he's good, I'm like, all right, well, you turn people off that way, not to mention the people trying to listen and watch at home or doing whatever.
Yeah, like, you're right, dude. Like, that is legit. That's timeless advice because, like, when you're on a podcast and when you have to talk, no one realizes how quick it is. Like, or, like, how quick an answer can really be if you don't give detail. Because, you know, like I remember I did an interview with a hip-hop artist, and we spoke for 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. I asked maybe, like, 10, 11 questions.
Jesus.
And then we went to, like, a song commercial break, and I was like, dude, you have to answer long. You have to give more answers. Like, come on. Yeah.
Speak to me.
Like, this show is an hour long.
Yeah.
And you've answered 10 questions about your personal life and how you make music all in the first 10 minutes.
And I'm sure they're all, like, mildly similar, right? Especially when you're in a niche. Especially when you're in a niche focus, right? When it comes to, like, music and stuff like that. And you're diving into the specifics of that one person. And it's probably worse when that person's very young, or, like, if that person's young, they have it. Like, if you're 45, you've been through some shit.
Yeah.
But if you're young, there has to be a multitude of reasons for you to be interesting. And I found that with, like, guests of mine. I got, like, I had a handful of people who, honestly, I'm blessed to only have had this maybe 2-3 times where it's been like, oof.
It's rare, like, it is pretty rare when it happens, and, like, I don't know about you, but I find it's when you least expect it. Like, it's when you hype someone up the most, or, like...
Especially in your head. Like, I'm maybe not so much where I'm like, oh, everybody ask questions, check this person out. Because then they get excited about it, or they put a pressure on themselves, so they end up performing. But it's more just, the first bigger person that I had on my show in terms of, like, they've accomplished a lot, they've done stuff, they're a bit older than my past few guests, which were friends of mine.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this is like the first adult on the show. And then I'm like, ooh, rough listen. And it did okay. Like, it did okay. He shared it. Everybody shared it. It went well. But I was just like, ooh, I was, like, stretching. I asked, like, 15 things, and only 8 minutes had gone by. And I'm like...
Oh, man.
I'm like, I can't cut it off at 8 minutes because that's not a podcast. That's, like, a quick...
Yeah, I hate those times, man.
Good.
Like,
has to be at least 30 minutes, I think, for it to be, like, okay. I think 40 minutes is good. The
only thing worse
than... an hour and a bit. I don't know.
I don't know. The only thing worse than those moments is when you get a guest that self-sabotages themselves. Like, there is a band that's from Northern Ontario that like, they came on my show because they're doing a festival.
Nice.
And they just tore themselves apart the whole show. Like, they talked about how they don't know how to play guitar.
Dude, we're trying to get people to watch your show.
Yeah.
Oh,
and it was it was excruciating because to try to guide them away from it.
Yeah.
And I mean, they're all like mid-30s and they have kids and they don't really care. But it was just so hard, like.
But my thing with that, dude, to cut you off, sorry, I don't mean anything by it.
It's all good, man. Like,
it just triggered me with this is, if somebody doesn't care, like if you don't care enough to like hype yourself up, like what they're saying, you're like, man, they just didn't care. I'm like, if you don't care, how do you expect other people to? Right? If you're half-assing something, how do you expect other people to... Like, people are drawn to people who are like, man, his passion or her passion to this. People are drawn to passion alone on things at a worldwide stage. And so for people not to give a shit... And honestly, there's part of me that felt if I was in that position now, I'd been like, guys, why... I don't understand why you're... Why are you guys being so negative on yourselves? Like, do you want people to show up or not?
And actually, that's something I did. I legit brought, like, I would make offhand, like, jokes about it.
You would, like, try to be like, hey, at least that, like, hey, that's good.
Yeah, because, like, after, like, they...
You only put up with it for so long, though.
Well, yeah, and when the guest, or, like, already says, like, they can't play guitar, then, like, 20 minutes later when you ask about the album, you can be like, yes, like, it must have been weird writing an album when you don't know chords.
Yeah,
and they're like,
how did that go?
It was. They're like, and then they answer, because, like, you basically, like, there's something like it's psychological / like a personality trait, but
for sure,
if someone's self-deprecating, and then you can meet them on their level that way.
Like, it's good in a humorous way, though. But it almost discredits not only what they're doing, what they're about to say, but also your time.
Honestly,
and it's like it's a disrespect. I almost think it's disrespectful in a way. Like it's
it's also a lack of self-esteem or other people in their life maybe have destroyed their self-esteem in a way.
Right.
Like it's one of those things. Like I don't know. It's too bad because I mean like for someone that's young, like that's cause, like especially like that's when you if that's when you got it, your confidence gets hit the most.
It takes longer to get it back, right? And now I think in a funny sense that exact same thing kind of took place. There was my good buddy Connor LaRock threw on they put on a night of mismatches a couple years ago, right? And,
I remember that.
Nice. And so it was fun. And I ended up I was on the side of the stage when I overheard after Fortunate Losers played, they came down and one of the guys said the guy's like, fuck, my guitar wasn't plugged in that whole time. And I lost it. I was like, dude, what the fuck, man? He's like, I don't know if anybody noticed. And I'm walking around, and then I'm talking to my guitar instructor later, shout out to him, Cam, and he goes, nah, if there are any musicians in the crowd, they'd be able to tell. Yeah. He's like, you can kind of hear, you can see what they're playing, and if you can't make out the sound, then you're like, why am I not hearing this E chord you're playing? Yeah. You're playing a hard power chord right now, and I don't hear a thing.
Weird. Yeah, and I think that's a good point because, me and my friends, just because I've experienced and seen a lot of, way more shit than anyone ever needs to see in their life, just because of the people that I've met and things I've done and just places I've put myself in.
Fair.
And a lot of my friends are the same. And so, we'll joke around like that.
Right.
And it'll be a self-deprecating kind of humor.
Right. It's humor.
Yeah, it's humor, and it's also, we're all aware that we're all really intelligent.
Right.
So there's a line of, it's a way to break the ice.
Yeah.
But it's also a way to kind of, bond over, as intelligent people. It's like sarcasm.
Very much, yeah.
That it works well with friends.
Yeah.
But in the case of, the dude from the band, or,
that example, yeah.
Or even, on a podcast when someone does it, it's just, I know it's not good, you know?
No, it's not.
Because it discredits, yeah.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And I think that discredits it's frustrating, man, at the end of the day. It is.
I think it was last year, or the year before, I actually made, just out of curiosity, because I was doing some market research on podcasting, I made a spreadsheet on Excel of all the podcasts in Northern Ontario.
Jesus!
And,
Tell me about that.
There's 45.
In Northern Ontario, eh?
Alone, yeah.
Why do I feel there should be more?
Honestly, that's a lot for this area.
And I'm sure not many of them are that good.
No.
I'm sure there's also some like, dude, put it in perspective, I've created 3.
Yeah.
I have 1 right now.
Yeah.
I've created 1, didn't go. I fell short after 5-6 months. Created another one, fell short after a couple months. But the common denominator between all of these shows is there was a co-host each time it failed.
Yeah. That's usually the factor.
I fucking hate co-hosts. It's ass. I opened the floor up for, I want people to guest host if they want.
Yes.
Right? And so I'm like, I can have a couple people, guest hosts come on, and then it's kind of like they pick the person, they pick kind of the framework of the show and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and I just like, in my studio and my shit. So it kind of works out that way. But 45, eh?
Yeah. And I mean, some of them, so like, if I remember, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but there is about half of them are co-hosted, and then the other half are solo stuff, only one host. And there's like 5 or 6 wrestling podcasts. There's a few about video games and like health. There's random business ones. I think I am one of the only music podcasts that does interviews.
Man, good for you.
Besides this guy that used to live in Sudbury, but now he's in Toronto. And his show is called No Sleep Till Sudbury.
Nice.
He does music interviews, but like it was just a random research thing that I researched because I was like,
nice.
yeah, and like his show is great.
I like that a lot. Good.
Because his show concept. Because like shout out to Brent Jensen because like the show is really well done.
Nice.
Where he'll bring musicians on and he'll get them to pick 5 songs, and talk about why they chose those 5 songs.
That's cool.
And it's just like you can see behind the scenes of like what the musician likes, or like maybe there's a song that's really sentimental, and then they share a story about their life.
Whoa, dude, I love that.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I always thought I thought there'd be more, and I like the idea. I think it's very, very. The market overall is very saturated, and I think at the end of the day, it comes down to do something that you want to do. Don't do it as a cause for like, ooh, everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
But if you do something that you like to do, and I think the key that I've kind of just started to realize lately is doing it consistently.
Yes.
Right? It's the biggest thing. And I gave a buddy of mine advice, and he didn't take it.
Oh, I love when that happens, though. I mean, like, there's something funny and satisfying about it.
But, like, right, and, like, the thing is, I told him this. I've started to imply it, and I told him, and where it frustrated me was, I'm like, he started a show. There were 3, and then remind me, I have a question and ask you about the research process for that. But I ended up, I told him, I was like, hey, man, can I offer you, we were doing, like, an Instagram live one night, and I was like, hey, man, like, I'm like, I know you just started this show, you're like 2 episodes in, it's this really big, like, you pushed it like crazy, everybody's going, you got like 130 comments, like, this project's so cool, I'm like, yeah, this is gonna kill it. I was like, can I offer you a piece of advice? And I'd been doing it a year and a half now, this is like earlier this year, right, New Year, and buddy goes, he's like, yeah, for sure, and I'm like, take me seriously when I say this. I'm like, discipline. I was like, consistency. I'm like, if you're consistent, you'll be fine. But I told him, I'm like, there's a statistic that I read in a presentation that this guy was doing. This gentleman, Ryan McMahon.
Yep.
He was like a really good comedian. He was like, hey, 83% of podcasts don't have more than 3 episodes.
Yep.
And I'm like, no shit, because one of them I had has 3 episodes.
And a lot of that list is the same thing. Mm-hmm. Like, I left them on the list just because it's just helpful to know. And like, if I ever have a client who wants to start a podcast and they're thinking about topics, then I can look at the list and be like, I mean, it's interesting because there's like no one's done it before, or like someone has tried it and only did 3 shows. But you're right, man. Because actually during COVID, I stopped doing music podcasts because I knew it wasn't worth it to compete with people that are going to try to do 3 shows and quit.
Yeah.
Just because it's something that it's a great idea at first, but it's really hard to maintain.
It's difficult. It's tough, man. It's tough to get like guests. It's tough to like keep on top of them. Yeah. People commit and then bail, and I'm like, fucking at my wit's end with that, man.
Honestly,
like, I'm at my wit's end with that. I'm like, oh man, like if one more person is like, yeah, I'll do it, and then just doesn't. It's not ideal. But yeah, essentially, what was your research process like to find out like, how'd you go about it? You just Google search?
I actually did kind of like keyword searches.
Yeah.
So like, I used that like the SEO approach where like you look with keywords, and then just did that for podcasts. So I specifically searched like on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Google, and
mine showed up.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, yours did, and then like I'm trying to remember what else there was. Like there's a couple of guys from Eastlink, and like that's how the wrestling podcast showed up.
Yeah.
Because when you search Northern Ontario podcast, it's there.
Right.
I mean, the other hack that I did with it is that I have a Google alert set up so that with different like specific words.
Right, for business, yeah.
Yeah. And one of them is also like Northern Ontario podcast. So every week I get an email with that if a story came up that has those words, I'll get suggested it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How'd you set that up, or is that just like a very specific Google thing that you did?
It's called Google Alert.
Yeah,
so like
you just set it up.
Yeah, when you when you go into like it's somewhere either like in the email or somewhere in like the Google settings, but you can make a Google alert, and then you'll actually get an email, like whether you want it every day, and like if you're nuts, you can do it every day.
Go once a week,
right? And it's like it was a way that I which is like it's like a trade secret actually. So like you're hearing it here first. This is how I did it, guys. And it's it was the Google alerts.
Yeah.
So I deleted a lot of them last week actually because I realized I don't need them anymore.
Right.
But I used to have an alert set up for the words Sudbury events, Sudbury poetry, Sudbury entrepreneurship, Sudbury startup.
Interesting.
And just everything else, like very specific things. And so then when I get the email, it actually keeps me up to date. So like that's how I found a lot of the businesses and companies for the radio show through those emails, because then
interesting.
Yeah, man, like
that's genius, dude.
And it's so simple too.
Yeah.
Because all you have to you just get the email and like just skim it, and every now and then you'll just see an article that like Sudbury.com wrote.
Yeah.
Because no one actually reads Sudbury.com, let's be honest. Like, I mean, I'm fine saying it. Well, unless you are like a parent or like an older, more like
they get their news from Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, like Sudbury.com is a good news source. It's just the average person, I guess, in my like under 35 doesn't read it probably.
Highly unlikely. Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just like even the other day, like I got an alert about a Northern Ontario podcast.
Nice.
Where it's a guy that started in Northern Ontario that interviews hockey players. Brett Fauzi, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And and the podcast is huge now.
Nice.
Like he's had like the Foligno twins on, and like the NHL is potentially going to sponsor them.
Oh, that's cool.
And the only reason I found it was because I had a Google alert for Northern Ontario podcast.
Yeah.
And there's a whole article on these guys and how they traveled to Toronto, and I was like, "What? This thing exists?
That's cool.
No way."
Jesus, yeah. Huh.
And so that's how I found a lot of the events over the years, and the podcasts, and like companies, because like it kind of automates it's automation for the process instead of.
Interesting. Next year is gonna be huge for it, but I think there's a way I want to kind of streamline it to be mainstream in a way. I'm just trying to. I got a bunch of like projects and like things I'm trying to work on, like just closing the gap on and then just diving into. Like I'm just gonna.
Well, that's honestly the hardest part. Like I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
Like my brain's all over the place,
right.
And so like I'll try to do a bunch of different things at once, and trying to streamline them. Like I'm better now,
right?
But that's because I've failed and fucked up so many times.
You have to, man. You have to.
Like it's every now and then, if I just want a reminder to like keep going, I'll open up a Word document that I have where I've tracked every like tiny thing I've done, and it's 4 pages long.
Jeez.
And it's just it's like 12-point font, or 11 or 12, and like it's just random stuff. Like, wrote a marketing plan for this charity, and then organized this event, and then created blank for someone else, and then volunteered for a youth leadership conference, and then like in all the way to like attended the Latin American Startup Conference. Like, it's just a bullet point list of all this stuff, just because I can't remember all of it. Honestly.
No, man, I don't blame you. Like you said, 11-point font. Jeez. Nice.
Yeah, like, and it's like at this point, it is a long list, but I had to make it because
I don't blame you.
I just like to try a bunch of stuff and like really put myself out there. And I mean, it's maybe why I'm just so knowledgeable and like people think I'm so brilliant and talented. Nice. I just know a lot of shit. Like, I've just seen a lot of things.
Yeah, it's a lot of perspective you've kind of soaked up over the years.
Yeah.
And I think what's cool, and I wanted to compliment you earlier on it, but your ability with goal setting to compartmentalize what your like hobbies or I don't like that word, it kind of takes the like love out of it, but the passion projects and kind of the business and like stuff you're focusing on, it enables you to kind of focus and streamline some of them, which makes it a lot more productive in the long run, right?
Absolutely, dude. Like, I think that's the main reason I do it. Like, it took me, it wasn't until I was like 22, I think, that I finally understood that that's how my brain works best.
Right.
Because I tried SMART goals and I tried other ways, but then once I found out that in order to like actually kind of like work with, like, even to get myself motivated and to like avoid the depression, numbness, I have to like, for me personally, I have to compartmentalize.
Right.
And it does really work.
Nice.
Because then you can also categorize, so when you go to a like a Chamber of Commerce, like their monthly like gatherings, event meetings, whatever, if I see that it's happening, then I can think about, okay, so what's my business goal?
Right.
Does it fit with this, or like, is there someone at this event that can actually help me?
Interesting. It like brings focus and meaning to kind of why going to certain things.
Yeah, because then you have intention with everything.
Right, which is huge, man.
Honestly,
and there's more fulfillment as you go. Oh.
Because then sometimes, like when it comes to concerts, then when I go to it, I know I'm just going for fun. Because I love the music.
Right.
But then there's other times that if it's a concert, I will actually go with the intention to talk to the band for an interview. Like, if I see them, I'll be like, dude, I need to get that, like, I need to ask them for an interview.
Yeah, you need to talk to them.
Yeah. And so, like, but, and like with art shows sometimes, like, I'll specifically go just because, like I want to see the art.
Right.
But also the people you talk to are a really big part of the community. And there's a good chance that I'll meet someone who can help me with my goal for poetry or comedy or like fundraising.
Yeah. That's super cool, man. That's a good way to do it.
It's effortless, and it's, I don't know, like, if I think about it, it's kind of like letting the universe take over.
Yeah. Like,
you're setting a good intention, and like you have a good purpose to go, and then you're basically just saying like, all right, universe, I want to do this, and like, I don't expect anything, but like, at least bring me some good shit.
Yeah, right? You manifest it, right?
Yeah, because it's something like and like over the year, like looking back, I'm getting way better at it now than I used to.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think that's a big part of it.
Right. Like,
because it's, or even like, I don't know, if you think about it, like, instead of calling it goals, like, you could even like make it like your manifesting list. If you want to get like really nerdy
really
and weird.
Philosophical about it.
Yeah. Or like your soul fulfillment list if you want to get Buddhist.
Yeah, it depends on who you are. Yeah, I think so. Interesting. So, as we kind of come to an end about for today, I'm sure you'll. I'm sure we'll chop it up again soon.
Oh, yeah. Because that hour and a half flew by.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm definitely not looking like, fuck, man, I ran out of material.
Yeah, I know.
So, it's more just, it's getting later. I work early. But, kind of, do you have, like, a last piece of, like, advice or something that you want to kind of pass on to people who watch it, or if they just catch this last part, or something that you want to resonate with the audience? So, yeah, let them hear it.
I think that everyone should just honestly just say F it and do something.
Yeah.
Like, and really push the comfort level. Like, it doesn't have to be, and by that I mean like this advice isn't like go jump off a cliff,
right,
bungee jumping. It's more like just go to a restaurant that you've never gone to before.
Yeah.
Or like go to a restaurant by yourself.
God, that's a huge one.
Yeah. And it's because it's those small things that every tiny moment that you push your comfort level and have to like really accept discomfort and like really get used to feeling like I don't really want to be here, like I'm really awkward, like are people watching?
Yeah.
Am I good enough?
Right.
Then after a while, like you can really do whatever you want. Because you get so good at being uncomfortable that it's kind of like there's a science behind it's like thrill seeking.
Right.
That with people that do mountain climbing, they've pushed their brains so far with being uncomfortable that they're just not afraid.
Interesting. You get to that point where you're like, all right, it's fearless.
Yeah. And so like it's kind of like, I guess in a way like that's the advice is like just be a mountain climber, but you don't need mountains to do it, honestly.
Wow. I love it. Kyle, where can people find you? What do you got going on? Mics are here, cameras there. Roll out the red carpet for you, brother. Let them know.
That's a classic Hot Ones outro. That was
yeah,
great.
I would, dude.
I like that.
Thank you, man. I watch way too many episodes every single day.
You nailed the flow
every morning.
of that
I
too.
start with it, dude. I love Sean Evans. Go.
So you can all find me at Buddy the Prophet. So Prophet on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and a bunch of other on Medium, a bunch of other random places. Like, for some reason the name is not claimed anywhere. Even TikTok is available. It's
amazing.
Great. And if you do ever need content for your company, or if you have no idea how to sell something or market something, and you want something that's really out of the box and creative, but works, then just go to poacherghost.com.
Nice.
But otherwise, yeah, I know. You'll see me around at comedy shows.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm doing a poetry slam on New Year's Eve, I think.
Oh, cool.
Which is exciting, and yeah, I'll be around.
Right on, brother. I really, listen, I really appreciate your time today. I really enjoyed picking your brain, and I really like talking to you. So
this was amazing, dude. Like it was fun too to like kind of go back and like really like summarize just like what I've done into tips.
Right on, brother. I really appreciate it. So thank you very much, man.
Yeah,
awesome.
man.